Pasha Paroh, YNS7. Thank you for tuning. Back in the house, Michael. Say hi, Michael.
Hey, hey, Pasha. Good to see you guys.
Always a perfect day. So, Mike, we're talking about systems and humanity and the attempted regulations of nature, pretty much. And we're at the point in the conversation where we're going to review, I want to review how the hierarchy of controls, which we mentioned earlier, actually plays a role in this. So the hierarchy of controls is really about humans attempt to manage the external environment, correct?
Yeah. To manage anything, to manage the system like monopoly. So I try to figure out any ways to manipulate or control the monopoly. So we're in a game, like all the systems are. It's I'm gonna win against you or over you, or I'm better. I'm making more money. I'm buying more hotels in that monopoly game or whatever. While in nature and humans in general don't have to control. When humans control, they are adapted to the monopoly game that we play, which are all the systems. But in nature, it's always adaptation. You adapt, you grow, and that's what's called the human potential. You adapt, you get smarter. So when humans build high rises in nature, first generation of falcons, flies, or the pigeons or whatever, they fly against the buildings of the high rises. But when you have been in New York and Chicago recently, these birds are adapted. They give birth to babies in on the highest floor. They have nests. They find way from trash or whatever to create nests. They adapt. They're not trying to control back the thing and say, screw the high rises, we control you back. They just adapt. And it's the same in Chernobyl. I told you, the atomic reactor, where the humans made major mistakes and everything was just as controlling as it gets. It blew up and humans just leave. And nature just takes over. It just grows over the whole thing.
So let's shift for a moment to go into to show how this ties into humanity in a sense of emotional control, emotional intelligence, and mental health. So in some of those situations that we may label as adaptation, could it be the success of an addiction? Think about like what some may call toxic situations, whether it's a workplace or a relationship. So there's an addiction formed in some of these applications that we refer to as adaptation. Do you see that as far as what you were saying about how with the adaptation in nature? Because you agree with what do you think about that?
So we agree. We talked about our third superpower, which is adaptations. And that means if humans adapt, that systems can survive. So if I'm going to a workplace where I don't fit in, I have my superpower of adaptation to submit, to subordinate, to whatever, or control, or manipulate, or smart people out. And that's all part of adaptations, where I can fit in the whole, because that's what we're made of. We are not made of perfectly fitting to each other. And that's what life is. We are DNA driven to fit to each other and fit in a puzzle piece that is humanity. So when I go in the system, I'm still having all these powers to adapt, but it costs me life force.
Okay. It costs you life force. I could see how that could be an umbrella statement that includes the question, because what I'm looking at is when you say that, I see the people um trauma. Like you mentioned going to work and
Yep.
being subordinate to what people call a boss, right? Or a supervisor,
Yeah.
whatever.
Or abuse or whatever. It doesn't even mean
So
a coworker can
so
give you shit. You know?
so that to some people may be register as trauma.
Mhm.
Then the brain is going to secrete like endorphins,
Mhm.
which is like morphine like
Stronger than
chemical.
morphine. Wait, I
Yeah.
think 100,000 times stronger than morphine.
So now go back to the pigeons that you were talking about in the harsh building
Yeah.
sides of New York, the people going to work, being subordinate to the bosses, all the stuff they talk about they don't like. But now we're bringing in the endorphin factor, the morphine like chemical in the body. Could we really be talking about adaptation when we really should be talking about addiction in the system?
Very good, very good, very. So the difference between when you know when in nature you build a high rise, all the birds fly against it. They don't find a habitat or whatever. But sooner or later they figure out, hey, I can build a nest on top of a skyscraper, and if I don't find the twigs that I need for my nest, I just take old Coke bottles or whatever, or old paper. And the difference between this is the animal nature knows to be in the moment and just take what it has and adapt. And then just say, hey, I got to figure out, the raven figures out how to get into that bottle. You figure it out and you do it. The human, because it's so stressed, it is not a natural environment. Systems are not, it's a man-made. So it is a hierarchy that is artificial. That's not a natural hierarchy. And by the way, there is no hierarchy in nature. Okay, so it's just forests burn down, and then they rise from the ashes again. But I think the stress of a static system that requires a static hierarchy of power and control is the main stressor. That's why we release all the endorphins and everything. That's why we get sick, because we are not static. We need sleep. We talked about that. We need sleep. We need to relax. We have harvests. We have different, not every harvest is the greatest harvest. It might be 2 years, you might not harvest the same thing in nature. But in systems, you need to control it that every year you get the same harvest, whatever you got to do. And I think that stress of something that works 24/7, also technology, and there's humans that need to relax, and we have done all this technology to give us more time and more time to be with family or with your kids or in nature with your animals or whatever, and we can't use it because we're reachable 24/7 on the iPhone. So that's that. I think that discrepancy of that, and there's another discrepancy that I think we should touch on either here now or later, is the discrepancy of human needs and system needs, human relevance and system relevance, and that gets always mixed. That if that's not separated, like we talked about art, the art product and the art creation, if you don't separate the system relevance and the human relevance, and don't put the human relevance first, you have what we have now, completely break down communications. That because I'm saying, yeah, but it should think this should be a thing because it hurts all the whatever Chinese people or all the gay people or this, but then try to rectify that in a system instead of giving us awareness and say, we're all humans. We are just different kinds, but we're all humans. And so how can we solve this injustice that we feel? Is there even an injustice in humanity? In the system, it is. So
Mike, I gotta ask you this.
Go ask me.
Now we've seen how you're gonna manipulate what's the next level of hierarchy of controls, because the PPE is gonna be like that's to protect the individual worker. So that's like your brain's gonna secrete like we said, the morphine-like
Yeah.
protective
Yeah.
chemical. Then we move
Yeah.
into the administrative controls, right?
Mhm.
So we can't change how the body works. You know, we know it does this when stimulated by that.
Yep.
So this is where we get into, if we can't change the way people work, like the systems in the people, the brain connected to the
Yeah.
nervous
Yeah.
system, this, that, and the other, it's going to stimulate this.
Yeah.
We can't change the system of people. Then this is where it goes back to the point of this topic. The hierarchy of control seems to be a management system of the environment, because if we can't change the way people work, then we can change the environment in which the people work in, and that allows
The
you to
systems.
change the stimulants the body absorbs and gets triggered by, and traumas it may face, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which ultimately what you put in is what you get out in some way, shape, or form, right?
Yep. What you say more around the way, it's basically, since we created systems, look, we didn't create humans, we didn't create nature. Therefore, we can alter, we can influence and have impact on nature. We have impact on humans. Obviously, we see that. But we can definitely change systems because we are the creator. I remember I said, you cannot submit to a creation that you created, but you can alter that creation. If you feel like that section in your music needs horns, you're going to put horns in. And so everybody says you need horns. And you say, oh, no, it's perfect. No, you created that song. You just can put horns in if you want it, you know? And the same thing is with systems. Since we created them, we can alter, adapt them to our needs. And it might even be that a system was for a different need old times, and now it needs to be renewed to the new times, how people evolved. And now this is not an issue anymore, you know? It's almost like, okay, we have the segregation of bathrooms, you know, in racial bathrooms. And all of a sudden, okay, but we don't need those anymore segregated. We just need, you know, men, women. And now you see we have bathrooms for everyone. So we just adapt the system to it, to our awareness at the current time. But we can't request system adaptation from humans to make this, to keep the system, because then we would have still segregated bathrooms. You understand what I mean? It's just we can, it's no problem, and we have shown that, to change a system to be human adapt. And we need to do this for every system. And also we need, which I think we said too in the other talks, to change that people can take advantage of that, hijack a system. So Putin with Russia, you know, or Hitler did, or other people. We need to avoid, or a CEO that is like a crazy person. We need to make sure that nobody can hijack any system to hurt other humans, or to make humans sick, or to do whatever. So, for example, you know, the trend that people want to be vegetarian, that people want to, you know, don't want meat, eat. And so so because people are used to meat, they want to eat a burger. So the industry comes out with incredible, whatever, you know, all these artificial, you know, they say on bean basis, on this basis, meat that tastes like meat, but it isn't meat. Yeah, but there's so much other crap in it. So it's not like you, instead of you eating a steak, you're eating an organic bean dip or something that has nothing in it. No, you get something that tastes like meat, but it is artificially so with so much stuff in it that it actually hurts the person. But the person eats it because it wants to save the environment, the planet. You know, it doesn't want to support mass animal raising and stuff. So always, you see what's the common denominator is creativity. Creativity is, we can kill each other, and we have to pull ourselves out and say, listen, we need to be aware. Why do people want to not eat meat? Because of boxed animals that are treated inhumanely. Nobody says eating animals that are raised on a pasture. but it's that's our main meat supply is, for example, animals in those boxes. And that's a stress that we keep eating through the food. This is we get sick from it, and it is bad for the animal as well as for our environment, because it's GMO. They eat GMO grain, and it's not against anything. It's just, what are we doing with ourselves? And then we use that grain, the GMO grain or beans, to create the burger. It's no different if you eat a real burger that is grass-fed, that is a burger that is made in a box where the animals are boxed, versus in eating one that is not an animal product, but has the same crap in it that the animal ate. It's just,
Now they're to
just
the point that they're feeding the animals to themselves to recycle boost the nutrients and stuff. So let me ask you, what do you think about that? Actually brings us to the substitution factor in the system of the hierarchy of control system, where they replace the hazard, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is a pivotal point, because it seems like a relationship itself, all your descriptions you just provided, you can parallel to interactions in between among humanity itself, within itself, in its own hierarchy of controls and systems of self.
Yeah.
So whether it's business or marital, whatever.
Yeah.
But what I'm noticing from what you're saying is that the system itself, in its attempt to create the balance, actually creates the imbalance. And then there's a tipping point of some sort where all tributaries of the system is looking to replace the hazard of the other tributaries of the system becoming more dominant.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what we have pivoted a point where every gratification, remember my example, if it should be sunny every day. If not, we sell you a Ferrari, a pill, or a face job. So it is the same. It's a short-term high. When you get a Ferrari, it's a short-term high. In a year, you don't give a shit about the Ferrari. It doesn't matter if you had a Toyota or Ferrari. After a year, it's not. Yeah, it's nice, whatever, but it's not that what it's supposed to do. If you feel bad about yourself, you're gonna feel better about yourself in a Toyota or in a Ferrari. It doesn't make a difference. So, and it's just perhaps it gives you a short-term ego jolt that you're happy, or you're getting the pill, makes you happy right now, but you can't suppress an energy. And the face job is not going to be, there's all this research where plastic surgery, they fix the face, person looks perfect and feels still that she's ugly or he's ugly. And he said, what did you do? I paid you 20 grand to make my face okay and fix that nose. And the guy said, I did. Look at you before. And she doesn't see it. She doesn't see it. You don't see it, because what it is inside, what you project. And we want to believe we do good for the planet, and we're actually doing worse for the planet than if we eat grass-fed beef, So we doing things that the same with the Tesla, right? We talked about electric cars. The batteries have not hit yet where they need to be replaced. When that happens, the whole happiness of electric cars, not even that, we can't even create the electricity, for those cars, but let's say we could for some reason, but the problem comes when the batteries go out, and those go out after 10 years, I think. And how we gonna recycle them? Do we recycle them? How we can create new, where are we getting all that stuff? So it's the secondary system solution. And then cars in general, we need to address that issue. We need to say, hey, are cars really something that we should consider as a main transportation? Because, I'm not saying don't get rid of cars, but I'm saying there is 1.3 or 1.2 people driving in cars. So it's never full. It's not like 4 people per car are always driving it. And then 93 or 94% of the time, the car is standing. It's using up space. It's not driving. And that was the awareness of Uber and Lyft. So let's use that statistic that cars are in the system are parked somewhere for 93%. They say, oh, let's use them, make money out of it. So that's disrupting our status quo.
So in listening to that, it seems like a lot of what compels people to achieve is a return to the trauma. They're reminded by the trauma or some sort of trauma.
Yeah.
Then they get to the substitution point where they want to replace the hazard. And then at some point you get to the highest tier where you have elimination, which is actually to physically remove the hazard. Mm-hmm. So, but the irony is that when you look at what drives that system, what drives that cycle, it's the system itself trying to maintain balance that always keeps the system cycling. It's like a screw. It's like a self-turning screw. The systems are self-turning screws. Is that why they say, like the financial system is fucking America? It's getting screwed.
Is it screwing everybody? It's not just America, because the financial system, I don't know if we talked about this, is a lack. That screw is continuously creating a lack. And that's why people don't feel rich when they have $1 million or $1 billion. They never feel fulfilled, because in the human system, success is fulfillment. So if you have money, if you have a car, if you have a girlfriend, if you're anything, if you have the Ferrari, the pillow, it doesn't matter. You are fulfilled. That's success in the human system. In the system dynamics, it's success. It's achieving a goal that you set yourself in that game of Monopoly, saying, I gotta buy all on that street, I'm buying all the hotels. And that's success, but it doesn't change anything of your fulfillment. You achieved with a lot of finesse, a lot of knowledge, to buy all the hotels on one street. But you're not fulfilled, you're not happy, doesn't mean anything. See, and this is where we screw ourselves through systems, because we use the advertising, marketing, and all the system, but with false promises. In the future, if you get the whole street of hotels, you gotta be fulfilled. Well, it's not true. You're not. And success doesn't fulfill you either. There's people that had Oscars and Grammys and they killed themselves too. It is nothing to do when you achieve that you're fulfilled. That means you achieved that goal and you won an Oscar. That achieved thing, you got the whole row of hotels. But it doesn't mean that you are happy, that you are healthy, that you feel in touch with nature and other humans. It doesn't say that. That's why billionaires kill themselves when they lose. They think they're hanging on that stuff. When they lose $1 million, they jump off a roof. And we need to separate that. Are we now, in what context are we not talking? Are we talking, if I say about systems something, am I talking in a system context? How to manipulate the Democrats against the Republicans and vice versa? Or am I talking, what's really good for humans? Screw the parties. What is really good for humans? And where should both parties go to fulfill humans, to give them the space? No system can fulfill you, but I can create the space to fulfill you.
With that in the space, because everything about the fractal universe, when we're talking about space included, the more you focus on it, the more it expands. So you're talking about the real estate ventures. If you bought all the hotels on the Monopoly board, you still didn't feel fulfilled. So if you're an advocate or an environmentalist or whatever, I guess an environmentalist is a type of advocate, whatever.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
you reach a goal, you achieve that, but you're still unfulfilled because you're always facing that return to trauma. And then, like when you said, the billionaire that jumps is the one that's afraid to face that trauma one more time because it's an addiction. And that's why you get to the points no matter what, and you always need more because it's not the what we putting into the body. It's the endorphin-like chemicals that the body's putting into itself in response to the stimulants of the various environmental factors that our personal hierarchy of controls, when activated, is attempting to manage, not keep the external balance, but to keep our internal balance.
Yeah, that's why you get a panic attack, to shut up and stop everything. That's why you get a panic attack. That's why you get fear, to stop and contemplate, why am I getting this fear? Why am I reacting like that? And you're reacting like that because you're in a mind construct versus what you're experiencing. There's not a mammoth or a tiger standing in front of your apartment. That would be a justified fear. But you have a mind construct that they're taking away your freedom, they're taking away your sanity, they're taking away the system. And you are in this mind construct and you start believing in it. And the believing in that this is superior to humanity gives you fear, anxiety, panic. Because you believe the bullshit that we tell. Our stories are not stories. Our stories are system manipulations that and it's not the system. Other people on the other side of the systems are, but we use it through a story told to a system is harmful. A story told to humans with the technical tools. For example, you and I talking we use the tool of technology, the system, to have a human conversation. Now that's healthy, because I cannot go to in Charlottesville and you cannot come here to California. So we're using that tool to expand our human potential. And that's the difference. That instead of believing they have us, they're gonna come in the door, they're gonna get us, if we don't pay our taxes, we're in jail, whatever. It's just, you see what the one thing is productive, and there shouldn't be systems. No, there should be systems. We created them, but they need to be adapted to where we can everything use like a Zoom to amplify. Every system should be created not to abide absolute by financial principles, but to abide humans, to allow them to lift their human potential.
I've been thinking about what you've been saying. We got about 8 minutes left.
Okay.
And this is what I hear. I think we just broke the code, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because repeat everything you say a lot, everything is good, it's true. This is what I want to focus on. When you say we made systems, and that's I had a download, right? I just received a download. And here's how I'll explain it. When our brain says we want to walk, right, and take a step, impulses, fire, whatever happens, cells talk to each other. Cells creates a authentication process for the communication to be sent and received, right? Has to be authenticated, validated. Then it moves on to signal to the next node network, and through the network in the system, it does its function task. So that means within that area, let's say our knee has to then have systems in place on a as above, so below level. That means that when it gets this input, this is the mechanical motion it must take from the signal from above. So what if the creator, the most high, the universe, whatever people want to call it, created what we're looking at as the perfection system, and everything that we're doing is just the response to that system's input. So we must create this, while people, as a humanity as a whole, is thinking that we did this on our own thought and process. It was scheduled from above. What if that's why the systems are in place? Because they're a fractal universe. The more you focus on it, the more everything expands down to infinity. So systems, in order to function, has smaller systems operating within them. So for the greater system to operate, that we know as the perfection, these systems must be in place on our level.
What my interpretation is, my opinion, is we gotta see system and pull us. That's what we're doing now, you and I. We're pulling ourselves out and say, why are we doing what we're doing, right? And I think we created systems, and our reaction is ego, which is godlike, you know. We love the shiny object, and psychology says the shiny object syndrome, right? We love our shiny objects. We love it so much so that we forgot we created them. We forgot that humanity, without humans, there wouldn't be any systems. And we forgot ourselves to navigate in systems, and we make it more real than reality. So we are, which we said before repeatedly, we are in a metaverse, but we don't know it. We want to create another one. That's never going to work because we are already in a metaverse. And it has nothing to do with the Matrix or anything. It's a good reference or something. But we created this to have to experience the power, the limitless power of, in the system, of an Elon Musk, of a Jeff Bezos, but also of a bag on Fifth Avenue, right? So we are limitless, and we love our creations. I mean, I look at my painting and say, Jesus, this is awesome, because I can't even remember when I did it, you know, but I did it. So we love our shiny objects, but you always need to know you are the creator of that, and you can't submit to that. And I think where the rub is, where the dissonance is of the vibrations, all the vibrations, is that we believe falsely, we have convinced ourselves we are God. And we convinced ourselves that we can, which the king did. The king, right? The king did this. He said, okay, I need warriors, and I need, okay, what am I gonna do with the woman? Okay, I gotta put him behind the stove and cook. Oh, we conquered lands. Oh, there's people that look different. Okay, we are the best because we are the conquerors, and there must be less. So we're totally in delusion, segregating through systems. Humans, you know, they believe the system's so strong, segregated woman and man, in genders, in race, in sexuality. Now we try to segregate in sexuality, which is irrelevant. All that is irrelevant. It's irrelevant to segregate in gender, race, or it's not human relevant. Yeah. And that's why I said we need to know what's human relevant and what's system relevant.
So the system's existence, we got real quick here, creates a pendulum.
Yeah.
Which creates the cycle because it's fighting for the balance. So what happens is anytime you're gonna shift from one extreme point, and then the momentum will, by nature, genuinely carry you to the next extreme point before it's dissipated to zero, and then the gravity brings it back towards center, but it overshoots and goes back. So there's a natural cycle, a pulse.
Yes and no.
Everything.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I think in nature there is, and nature knows, you know, when it burns, the wood burns, it just adapts, and then the forest grows again. But nature isn't systems. And in system, when it overshoots, it also collapses because
nature's
everything.
Not our system.
Yeah.
We didn't make that, but it is a system.
Yeah. It is a system, but it's not the organic life. It's not for living beings. So we created that system, but when you overshoot in the systems, it usually the system then expands either, or it collapses. it ultimately, obviously, you're correct. It ultimately abides by the same rules that we do because we created it, and it's just a stepped down version of the big one, you know, a very primitive one. But that's why if we're aware of it, we don't have to let it collapse in itself. We don't have to allow it to create more systems and that are more against humans beings. So that's why I say be aware of that. And when you discuss anything, is it in a system context or human context? Human context is always more important than system context, because without humans, system don't exist. So, and you know that. And if you just compartmentalize that awareness, your life gets 50% easier.
I appreciate you tonight, Mike. We right at about closing time. Pasha Paroh, Wine at 7. Thank you for tuning. Systems are basically responsible for the cycles that we're in. And it's a fractal universe. We'll be back to talk about it more. Michael, say bye to the people.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate any time you give us. And it's always a pleasure with you, Pasha. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Always a perfect day. Peace.
I call you back.